What is good, Tsla family? It's Ray J back with another video, and this one I want to break down what's going on with the overall market and talk about some very important levels to watch for. I'm also going to talk about Tesla stock and why it's not doing as bad as some people are saying right now, in my opinion. But before I break anything down about all this information, before I get into any more details, let me just mention a couple of things. I am firstly not a financial planner, so take none of this as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Webull link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Webull, the link down below, and deposit any amount of money into the account, you are guaranteed up to 12 free stocks. The offer ends very soon, in just about 8 days, so check it out before they run out. Anyways, let's break down what's going on with Tesla and the overall market. So one thing that's very important to note is that SPY broke its support, right? We had the support at 448, we broke below it, now we're coming all the way down to 444. Tesla, however, has not broken the major support just yet. We're still above 442 to 445. We're currently at 447 as of right now. Tesla is, it is dropping with the market, of course, because we had some bad news that came out. We have some fears that emerged because of some data, which I will talk about in just a couple of minutes. And despite that, Tesla is still not breaking this low just yet. It's still showing like some strength to some extent, even though it is like falling at the same time. Now, if you look at Apple, it broke its low. We saw Nvda break the low from yesterday. We're seeing all these different stocks doing this, and this is something I was talking about in my earlier videos. But I want to talk more about this later on. Let's first talk about what on earth is going on with the markets. Why is the market selling off? So the first thing you have to remember when it comes to our data and etc., you have to take this into context. Oil prices have been spiking. They're continuing to go up. The price of a barrel of oil is just going up and up as Saudi Arabia has extended the 1.3 million barrel a day oil cut through December. This is some big news. You guys know that less supply of something with high demand, which is going to be maintained, if not increasing as we approach Q4, is going to lead to prices going up. And oil, crude oil, gas, these things affect every single sector to some extent. They're going to affect services, they're going to affect transportation, the cost of production, factories, and the list goes on. So this is some very, very big news. And on top of this, we had some important data that came out today. I warned you all that in the morning, 15 minutes after the market opened, this data is coming out, and this could cause the market to make a very big move, even Tesla. It could cause Tesla to either bounce or even end up tanking. And that is what ended up happening. So what was the data? Why was this so important? What actually happened? Well, we had the S&P Global Services PMI, which was a little bit lower than expected, showing some more signs of contraction, but this was not the bigger thing. What ended up happening was economic optimism was still decent, and then looking at new orders and etc., things are still not too bad. But then what ended up going up was the services prices. The ISM services prices was 58.9 on the index versus 56.4, which is the forecast. What does this mean in English? The answer is prices for services have gone up. They're going up, and there's a risk of inflation going up in the services sector of CPI, which could drive up inflation in the economy. And that's very important because not only that is going on, but also, oil surging, which is once again a bearish catalyst for the markets. Now, that is not at all what the market wanted. And for that reason, there's been a lot of Fed speakers saying that they may have to raise rates again. So the market is falling on the fear that maybe the Fed is not done hiking. They may have to raise rates again. And the market is not liking this whatsoever. Now, when it comes to Tesla, there's still some headlines coming out about how Tesla has its new Highland model. Tesla's doing relatively well. Is Tesla still a buy? I'm seeing some things like that, but nothing was like out of the ordinary from what I talked about yesterday. Something that's kind of comical, though, is that Elon Musk had no clue that Tesla and McDonald's were launching this product. They basically came up with this cyber spoon in China. It looks pretty interesting, pretty funny. This was making some headlines. I just wanted to talk about that briefly. So maybe this will make your day a little better. It looks pretty cool. Maybe, Tesla wasn't even aware of it, but it's okay. Anyways, going back to the charts, I want to now talk about what's going on with Tesla and etc. So looking at SPY, just to be frank, we're in a free fall right now. We're breaking below the 200 EMA as of right now. On the 4-hour time frame, SPY is now down 1.13%. It is approaching oversold territory, but it's continuing to free fall and we're not necessarily done just yet. So if it breaks 444, we are going to head towards 442.5. Around this imbalance is going to be our target. If it continues to break down and it's continuing to look weaker and weaker and weaker, this is still a free fall. We look very bearish on the 4-hour and also on the 30 minutes time frames. To add on to this, when you look at Tesla, however, Tesla has been dropping, and it's basically getting dragged down by the market and this external piece of news. So it's not necessarily Tesla's fundamentals that caused this. It has more to do with the external macroeconomic factors and other conditions. But one thing you want to remember about Tesla is that we have some demand. We're seeing some buyers stepping in on Tesla. You see, Tesla came down. It's about 245 and bounced off that. And now we have these supports at the 250 EMAs. 245 and 247.5 are acting as pivot zones. Tesla's trying to see buyers stepping in here, and it's starting to outperform the market a little bit to some extent by not falling as hard. We're not seeing Tesla break below like 242, excuse me, or even like 240. It's still trying to hold these EMAs, so it's showing a little bit more strength despite the fact that it's dropping. So what levels should you be watching for? 448.5 has some resistance, followed by 4. Did I say 4? I'm sorry, guys. 248.5 followed by 250 is where we have the resistance. And then support right now is going to be around this 247.5 area and then 245. So we're going to be watching those levels very carefully. Tesla is going to get dragged down. It's getting dragged down a little bit more thanks to the market, but it's trying to hold up as of right now. So just watch it try to hold these support zones. And if 245 breaks, then there's a risk of 242.5. Be very careful, but as of right now, Tesla's trying to hold up, and it is showing some strength. Looking at SPY, this thing is on a free fall. It's continuing to tank. We're about to test 444 again, looking very weak on the 4-hour time frame. I was talking about this earlier. I've been telling you guys that I'm turning more bearish on SPY, and we're finally getting the drop I've been talking about. Now, we have this imbalance down here, 442.5, and once we break 444, 444 is acting as support right now. If that breaks, we're going to head all the way down there most likely. We are looking weaker. We have resistance at 445 and 445.5, but as of right now, SPY is continuing to look weak. So please watch your levels very carefully. Do not chase and be very careful in a market like this. The IWM is also tanking. The Russell 2000, the small caps are also looking weak. Our next critical support right here is 185. Then we have 184.5 is the next level. We're going to be watching these levels carefully. This is also looking relatively weak, but not as weak as SPY. Aapl is a big one. Aapl has been dropping as well. It's on a free fall, but it's trying to show some life around 182.8. Very, very close to that. But the thing is, Aapl is very, very oversold. But despite that, there's still room for it to continue dropping. We're going to be watching support at 182.8, 182.5, and then 182 flat. And if those all fail, it's going to get very close to 180 flat. But one thing worth mentioning is that it's very, very oversold. So it's going to bounce most likely tomorrow. It should bounce. Aapl is sinking extremely hard. One thing I was talking about was the fact that we had this triple bearish divergence on Aapl, the quadruple bearish divergence, and also the bearish divergence on the 4-hour time frame. So this ended up playing out. We ended up getting the drop on Aapl. I was talking about this for many days now, and it finally happened, right? And this is dragging the market down to some extent. So it's very important to note, and Aapl is still looking relatively weak. Okay, so be careful with Aapl. It's still looking weak. It could drop more, but watch support very, very carefully. And then for resistance, watch 183.5. And this level right about here, around 184.25. For the QQQ, it's looking relatively weak, continuing to free fall. 372 has been tested, and it's going to continue to drop. It does not look like it's done falling just yet. When you zoom out of the chart, you will see that we have this important level right here around 372 flat. Then we have 370 below that. Every dollar could be acting as support for this thing too, but 370 is going to be the next very important support, followed by 368. For resistance, you're going to be watching 373.5, 374, and then 375.5. Those are going to be some very important levels, so watch them all very, very carefully. And just know that the QQQ is looking weak right now. It's still continuing to fall, and it could be breaking this low very, very shortly. So it's still looking weak at the time I'm recording this. Just know that Nvda is also looking relatively weak. I was telling everyone that Nvda would likely see some downside. Many of us were talking about this, even people in the comments section. So great job, everyone out there that was calling this. We had this imbalance down here on Nvda around this 466 area. This is where Nvda just touched. It still is looking bearish though. It's not necessarily like done. We're watching 466 as support. If that breaks, there is some support around the 465 area, but then 460 is going to be the next target, followed by like 455 and etc. But 460 would be next if we break below 466. That is a real risk and a real possibility. Nvda is still looking weak, so please be very careful. For resistance, you're going to be watching 470. You want to see it try to hold this 470 area, get above it. And then if it breaks that, 476 is on the table. But for now, it's looking weak. So I'm not really counting on it to break to the upside too hard or anything like that. Still free falling at the time of recording this. Make sure you're prepared for that. Be very careful. The dollar is still trying to break out. It's still green. It was trying to break above 105. Still on a nice uptrend, but there is a potential bearish divergence starting to develop. We will see if we reject off 105 or not, because then we could see the dollar start to fall tomorrow, which could mean the market is going to try to bounce a bit. But for now, it's just worth noting that the dollar right over here is continuing to hold. As of right now, it's holding up. Even though there is a bearish divergence developing, it's still holding up, and there's no sign of it rejecting just yet. So because the dollar is holding up, because the dollar pumped, the market has slowed down. That's playing a big role. The VIX is now at 15, continuing to push up. This thing keeps going and going and going. We're going to be watching this thing try to make its way up to these higher levels. So the VIX, on the other hand, is still trying to push upwards. We're at 15 right now. We're going to be watching 15.25. And the VIX is continuing to uptrend. As it continues to uptrend, the market is still going to remain bearish. So be prepared for that and watch this all carefully. The 10-year Treasury yield is going up as we're anticipating a more hawkish Fed. That is what tends to happen. So all of these indicators are acting normally, like the 10-year, the VIX, the dollar. It's all normal, and we're just going to be watching these levels. SPY is still looking weak, getting very close to 444. Like I said before, if we get a clean break below that, this thing has more downside coming. All right, so thank you all so much for listening. Tesla is showing some strength by not dropping as low as other stocks out there. It's also trying to hold above its support a little bit better than the overall market. But please watch your levels carefully. Don't forget to watch resistance 449, 249. Sorry about that, guys. 249.5 followed by 250, and then 252 are all going to be very, very important resistance levels. But I don't expect it to break out or anything like that, at least for the time being. The market is still weak. It's acting as an anchor, so it may drag Tesla a little bit lower, but Tesla's going to try to hold 247.5 and then 245 at the lowest. And below that, 242 is a possibility if that breaks. But as of right now, Tesla's trying to hold up. All right, so I hope that's as clear as possible. Thank you all so much for listening. Take care, and I'll see you guys very soon. Thank you, and peace out.